This video is sponsored by Squarespace. More about them later. Oh It's the Horse Lock, baby, a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Sword with horses. I've got two starters for this challenge, Seabiscuit and Warhorse, the horse from Warhorse. As soon as yep, that's me, get to the wild area, I search for horse number 3. But alas, I find that these bountiful fields are not where nature's most beautiful beasts roam. So it is with Seabiscuit and Warhorse, the horse from Warhorse alone, that I arrive in Motostoke for the opening ceremony of the Galar Gym Challenge. After that, though, we're off to Route 3, where I meet Flicka the Mudbray. Look at this little dummy. Absolutely no thoughts in that thick noggin, but she's a sweetheart nonetheless. Our quest to become Master of Horses and the Champion of Galar begins by challenging the first gym leader, Milo. He really puts the arm in Farmer, am I right? Unfortunately for Daddy Milo, Seabiscuit torches his grass types with relative ease. Dynamax is a no-go in this challenge, but with Protect to largely neuter Big Goss, victory is ours a few turns later. A quick handshake seals the deal, and we're off to Holbury, but Nessa won't be as easy as that gentle-faced rural himbo. In fact, her water types will drown Seabiscuit and Flicka faster than two wrongfully accused witches. And though he's a fighter, Warhorse, the horse from Warhorse, simply cannot handle the Dynamaxing Dreadnought alone. The fact of the matter is that we're in over our horsey heads. The answer is obvious. We're gonna need a fourth horse. So it's off to the Isle of Armor, where in the soothing wetlands, I catch Spirit the Bouffalante. Yep, that's one healthy stallion of the Cimarron, 100% a horse if I ever saw one. And though Spirit may not be the lightest on his feet, what he lacks in speed he makes up for in big beefy bulk. So against Nessa with the held leftovers, Spirit's free to clomp all over our two fishy foes without taking much damage at all. Dreadnaught's a different story though, with Dynamax letting him fire off massive attacks that even our hefty and very legitimate horse can just barely weather. A Protect lets Spirit take a squeak of damage from Dreadnaught's first Max Geyser. On his second turn of Dynamax, he opts for a Max Strike, which now does full damage, though Spirit remains in the green as he counters the speed drop with a super effective drop of his own via Bulldoze. One final turn of Protect shrugs off Dreadnaught's final turn of Dynamax, and now that he's back to his regular stature, things feel a bit more even. He still outspeeds and fires off a pretty nasty rain-boosted Razor Shell that also drops our defense. A second Bulldoze brings Dreadnought down into the yellow, and with the speed drop, we should be able to outspeed. But if we low roll and Spirit misses out on the KO, he's as good as dead. After protecting for a turn to fully stall out the rain, I decide that it's best to first switch to Warhorse, the horse from Warhorse. Even a non-rain boosted Razor Shell does over 50%, and our Citrus Berry doesn't get us back enough HP to survive another hit, especially because Dreadnought knows the super effective Bite. So I gotta gamble with My Little Pony's life. Warhorse, the horse from Warhorse, lets out a mighty growl, dropping Dreadnaught's attack. The only question, is it enough to save his life? It is! And with that, it's now much safer to switch to Spirit, who shrugs off a Bite. A Bulldoze leaves Dreadnought with the sliveriest of slivers, retroactively validating my decision to switch out. Dreadnought then fires off one last Razor Shell, but without a crit, it's not enough to fell my mighty steed, meaning that he can clap back with one last Bulldoze, narrowly winning us a hard-earned second gym badge. The team remains fully intact.
Whoa, hold your horses, Flygon. Don't you gotta talk about the sponsor of this video, Squarespace? Get it? Horses? I suppose it's not my best, but oh, wait, I just came up with another one. Go back to the line about winning a second gym badge. It's gonna be great.
Narrowly winning us the second gym.
Wow, looks like your Pokemon weren't horsing around. Come on, that was a good one. But maybe I should have just committed to the first segue. After all, they say you shouldn't change horses mid-street.
Well, like Garchomp FJ said, this video is sponsored by Squarespace, an online platform that helps you build and manage your own website. Whether that's an online store for your business or a personal blog for your thoughts, Squarespace has a new guided design system called Squarespace Blueprint, which lets you choose from curated layouts and styling options to build a distinguished and professional online presence from the ground up. It makes the perfect website tailored to whatever your brand or business may may be, and optimizes the site for every device. Plus, with integrated SEO tools, your passion project is sure to show up more often to more people. At this point, what more can I tell you about PoppyHG.com? My personal Squarespace website completely dedicated to my corgi puppy, Poppy. Unrelated, but please admire this photo of Poppy the first time she met a horse. Thanks to Squarespace's video collection feature, PoppyHG.com also has an entire video library for your viewing pleasure. Squarespace also has a ton of other additional features like analytic information about the traffic of your website and online stores to help monetize your passion. So if you're looking to start a website for your business or hobby or corgi, then you should check out squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch your website, you can use my custom link to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thanks so much to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Now, let's get back to the challenge. The team remains fully intact as we run into Bede, the worst of our rivals by a sizable margin. It's a shame too, since he is a fellow horse trainer, but Chairman Rose just gave me the TM for retaliate, and, well, R.I.P. Bede's team of little monsters. Back at the Badu Inn, we face off against Marnie, who's squandering her horse girl potential and therefore must be punished. It isn't long until we're at the Moto Stoke Stadium facing off against the Silver Fox for badge number 3. Kabu is easily the hardest trainer in the early game, but it's nothing 4 legitimate horses can't handle. The plan is simple. Spam Bulldoze as Kabu attempts to burn Flicka. A Rossberry means that we can KO Ninetales without taking a lick of damage. Arcanine is tougher since he gets off an Intimidate and a second Will-O-Wisp, but Spirit can come in and make quick work of him as well. The real kicker on Kabu's team is his Gigantamaxing Centiskorch. Fortunately, Seabiscuit is immune to fire-type attacks thanks to our ability Flash Fire, though coming in on a max Flutterby instead of a max Flare throws my entire plan into complete disarray. Even resisted, the move does huge damage to the frailest of my horses, and though we can protect on Flutterby number 2, Leftovers isn't enough to safely survive a third hit. So I decide to switch to Flicka, hoping that her bulk is enough to brunt the onslaught of Centiskorch's final turn of Gigantamax. And it is, but as a result of her lingering burn, my sweet little girl falls, marking the very first death of the run. Poor Flicka will never again get to frolic through fields of flowers. She'll never become the powerhouse Mudsdale she was destined to be, and that truly breaks my heart. So much potential vanquished by Kabu and his big dumb bug. Little Girl's death does let Spirit come in and nail our foe with a double-powered Retaliate, though it's still not enough to get the KO. So after tanking one last Bug Bite, a final Retaliate puts Centiskorch in the dirt. I'm forced to shake the hand of Flicka's killer, but with that, the third gym badge is ours. Flicka may be gone, but she will never be forgotten. Seabiscuit has her to thank for his life, and from here on out, everything he does will be in her memory. As Hop and I return to the wild area and our journey continues north, I need to find some new teammates, especially now that we've got an extra vacancy. So it's off to Bridge Field, where I catch a Q-Fant.
Oh, come on, Flygon! You can't be serious. I may have heavy blood loss from being repeatedly stabbed, but my vision is only partially impaired, and that is no horse.
Okay, first off, what stabbings? I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about.
Are you trying
and
to
second off,
gaslight me?
that is absolutely a horse.
What? How is Q-Fant possibly a horse?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Garchomp FJ, because I put a lot of thought into this.
Into what?
I call them the horse guidelines. 3 criteria that determine whether a Pokemon counts as a horse. 1, a horse must be able to learn high horsepower. Whether by level up or TM, either is fine. 2, a horse must be rideable. A rather utilitarian definition of horsiness, but as a famous philosopher once said, it's what it's. And 3, a horse must walk on all 4 legs, for if it does not, it is a human. If a Pokemon satisfies these 3 criteria, it ubiquitously obtains coveted horse status.
Are you okay? Is this a cry for help? Because that was completely incoherent and sounded like the ramblings of a crazy person.
Crazy? You think I'm crazy? Do you think a crazy person could create a Venn diagram to visualize the horse guidelines? No. Anyways, since Qfant does indeed satisfy the 3 criteria for horse status outlined in the horse guidelines, Boxer joins the team as horse number 4, or technically horse number 5. We'll never forget you, Flicka. And as you may have guessed, Boxer's not the only certified 100% all-natural horse that I can get at this point in the game, because back on the Isle of Armor, I catch a sturdy stallion named Maximus. His intimidation game is lacking, but our new horse has quite the nasty temper when it comes to critical hits. Can't relate, couldn't be me. After a quick stop in Hammerlock, I head to Route 6 to catch my, at least for the time being, final teammate. Remember the horse guidelines and don't be prejudiced, folks, because Shadowfax here is the hardest working horse I ever did saw. Now run, Shadowfax, show us the meaning of haste. In Stow-on-Side, I meet up with Hop at the peak of his depression era. He's upset about living up to his brother's legacy, which is rough, yeah, though I'd have a little more sympathy for him if he weren't trying to battle with a literal baby in a literal diaper. So after that swift victory, both Boxer and Shadowfax mark the first evolutions of the run. It's a crime how late my twin starters evolve. Level 40? What is this, Unova? Thankfully, Warhorse, the horse from Warhorse, doesn't need an evolution to slice through B's first few Pokemon like a handful of perfectly cooked fish fillets. Psybeams play around Hitmontop's counter, Dazzling Gleam takes the quad-effective Oko on Pangoro, and Zen Headbutt leaves Sirfetch'd with a sliver, but causes a flinch, which would be cool were it not for his steadfast ability. This lets the chicken outspeed on the next turn and nail us with a nasty brutal swing, though our follow-up Dazzling Gleam now obviously takes the KO. So all that's left to do is deal with B's active wear Machamp. Thankfully, Shadowfax is now one bulky daughter of a gun. After tanking the Max Darkness on the switch, and then the Max Strike on turn 2, Shadowfax uses Dig to completely dodge Machamp's third and final Dynamax move. Yeah, you're going for G-Max Chi Strike B? I don't think so. As we surface, Dig does a solid chunk of damage, and now that Machamp is back to her Spring Breaker look, she's much less threatening. We eat a hard knockoff before going for a Dig, but as Shadowfax takes to the tunnels, I instantly realize my mistake, because Machamp knows Revenge, a move that hits with negative priority, meaning that on the following turn, Shadowfax moves first, her Dig leaving the forearm girly with a sliver of HP and boosting Revenge to a whopping 120 base power move. That Shadowfax survives with just 2 HP. Looks like the Pope had Taco Bell because holy shit was that way too close. Seabiscuit is free to come in on a meager 60 base power Revenge and then finish off Machamp with a Flame Wheel, narrowly winning us the 4th gym badge completely unpunished. Other than dicing Bede's Pokemon with a few more retaliates, it's a quick trip to Bolonlia where we face the easiest gym leader since Milo. Boxer literally flattens Opal's fairy types like pancakes, bolstered by the boost from answering our foe's narcissistic trivia questions. But one thing that I won't do is placate this woman's irrational fear of the natural process that is aging. It's okay to be old, Opal, and regardless of the spiteful drop to our attack, Boxer turns Alcremie into a deliciously sweet breakfast, meaning that we've won the battle. And with the new level cap of 42, the twins finally evolve into Rapidae right in time for another rematch against Flop. This is one of the few times that he can be a genuine challenge, since his Snorlax can get out of control if you let him set up a few stockpiles. But with a Will-O-Wisp from Seabiscuit and a few Rock Smite from Boxer, that beefy threat is neutralized and the rest of Flop's team quickly follows. So we next arrive in the extremely British-sounding Sirchester, where we soon match up against Gordy and his rock types. My plan is to plow through with Boxer, though that immediately goes out the window as Gordy's lead Barbaracle hits us with a nasty Razor Shell instead of going for Shell Smash. The result is that our Bulldoze doesn't kill, and thanks to Boxer's sheer force ability, it also doesn't lower Barbaracle's speed. So not wanting to risk a high roll, not to mention a critical hit, I switch out to Maximus as Gordy now goes for a Shell Smash, which is, Not good. This means he outspeeds and rips a massive razor shell, one that, were it to crit, likely would have caused a wipe. But without the crit, Maximus can restore some HP with his Citrus Berry and take the KO with another Bulldoze. Shuckle grants a nearly free switch back to Boxer, who then makes a Shuckle-flavored pancake and brings in Stonejourner, whose bulk or perhaps weight I grossly underestimated, as after he sets up a Stealth Rock, our Heavy Slam doesn't even do 50%. But, and this admittedly was a bit of a gamble, I correctly guessed that Gordy signs his own death certificate by going for Wonder Room, which swaps all Pokemon's defense and special defense stats, thereby allowing our second Heavy Slam to get the KO. And that also means that Gordy's Gigantamax Colossal is significantly less bulky on the physical side, so after swapping around to stall out Dynamax, side note, a Fire-type immunity is incredible in this game because so many Pokemon have Fire-type max moves, and an immunity makes it much easier to survive the 3 turns of Onslaught. Anyways, after Dynamax is over, Shadowfax rips a quad-effective dig for the clean KO, I shake the world's largest hand, and Gym Badge number 6 is ours. Pierce is the 7th gym leader, but now that Warhorse, the horse from Warhorse, gained the coveted secondary fairy typing, he shreds through most of our foes' dark types with the murderous tenacity of a unicorn. Against Obstagoon, he needs the burn assist from his buddy Seabiscuit, and against Skuntank, he outsources the finishing blow to Boxer, but this fight is by far Warhorse, the horse from Warhorse's MVP reel, though there's still a whole chunk of game left to finish. After a bit of double horse action against Raihan's gym trainers, look at how majestic my boys are. Those are some damn fine horses. We head to Hammerlock Stadium for the 8th and final gym challenge. Raihan is the rare in-game double battle, and his Duraludon is always a big threat. The best course of action is to time the knockouts of Raihan's remaining 3 Pokemon so that his ace is forced into a 2v1. So naturally, I don't do that. Raihan's Flygon immediately throws me for a loop by outspeeding Warhorse, the horse from Warhorse, letting him connect with a super effective Steel Wing before falling to our wide lens boosted Play Rough. Not exactly according to plan, but what's worse is that Boxer manages to straight up one-shot Gigalith with an Iron Head. Granted, it's boosted by Sheer Force and a held Metal Coat, but still. That's impressive, though ultimately not that great since now both Sandaconda and Duraludon take the field. Which means we're gonna need to make some educated guesses on who this Duraludon is targeting and with which max moves. The tricky thing is that you really want to avoid baiting Max Knuckles and Max Steel Spikes, since those moves will boost Duraludon's attack and defense respectively, which makes him much harder to deal with even after Dynamax is over, and especially because he knows Body Press, which by the way, hits 3 of my Pokemon for super effective damage. I start with a double switch, Warhorse, the horse from Warhorse, into his Sib, and Boxer into Shadowfax. This is a big risk, but one that pays off moderately well, as Duraludon launches a Max Knuckle into Boxer, and Sandaconda hits Seabiscuit with a Glare. On the following turn, Seabiscuit, now hopefully baiting Max Rockfall, switches into Boxer, who, after Sandaconda goes for a useless Protect, does indeed Bronte-resisted Rockfall. Shadowfax then takes to the tunnels, meaning that on the next turn, Boxer's free to protect on a second Max Knuckle that gives Duraludon and Sandaconda a second attack boost before Shadowfax emerges and strikes Duraludon with a massive chunk of damage. As Duraludon returns to his marginally more organic form, things are still a bit tricky. I switch Boxer out into Maximus, who with the held Choppleberry is able to easily tank a super effective Body Press. Sandaconda also targets Maximus with a Fire Fang, which triggers a nasty burn, but at this point it doesn't matter because Shadowfax again takes to the tunnels, letting Maximus protect on the following turn before we get the KO on Raihan's ace. Sandaconda remains, but after switching Spirit in and lowering the Knotted Serpent speed with a Bulldoze, my bulky boy gets the KO with a massive Reckless boosted Head Smash. So the battle is won, the medallion thingy is complete, and we've earned our spot in Winden Stadium's Champion Cup. Or rather, we've earned a spot in the prelims where we still need to fight Marnie and Flop. Fortunately, neither one is particularly challenging for our well-oiled horse-powered machine. Marnie is fully swept by Warhorse, the horse from Warhorse, until her Gigantamax Grimmsnarl, who we stall with a series of switches and then flatten like some sort of thin flour-based pastry or whatever. Flop is marginally more difficult, almost solely due to the fact that his Rillaboom now Dynamaxes and has pretty impressive coverage. Nevertheless, a few smart switches stall him out, letting Maximus come in and take the clean KO with a Mega Horn. Well, good thing Kobo over here didn't crit because that would have been rough. This may seem like it's still a touch scary since Rillaboom is sitting in overgrow range, but a switch to Spirit on a high horsepower followed by a nonsense Snarl reveals that the AI is likely treating Drum Beating as a speed reducing move, meaning that we were very likely always safe to take the KO with Spirit and win the battle. Prior to the Champion Cup, there's this small Macrocosmos arc, highlighted by an Ascent Up Rose Tower featuring several multi-battles with Flop where he uses a freaking normal type against an onslaught of steel types. Like, are you kidding me, Flop? You could not pick a more useless Pokemon for this mission. Anyways, there's also a fight against Oleana, I can fix her, but her team is nothing more than a warm-up for the final fights of the game, some of which are actually quite difficult. As we prepare for the Champion Cup, here's my final team, top to bottom full of horses. I got horses in the back and horses in the front. Everywhere you look, there's nothing but flowing manes, hooved feet, and wild hearts. So let's see if we've got what it takes to become champions of the Pokemon League. Before round 1 begins, Bede storms the field to settle a personal score against me. Of all people, me? What did I do other than humiliate him on multiple accounts and secretly talk to everyone and their mother about how lame and annoying I think he is? Surely this anger could be more directed at Chairman Rose or something, but maybe Bede is a glutton for punishment because his fairy-type Pokemon stand absolutely zero chance at making so much as a dent into my team. Mawile gets obliterated by Seabiscuit, Gardevoir gets cratered by Boxer, Galarian Rapidash regrettably gets turned into glue again by Boxer, and after appropriately stalling out Hatterene's Dynamax turns, look, another useless Max Flare. Boxer comes back in and ends the fight with one last Heavy Slam. With that, it's finally time for the actual Champion Cup, and round 1 is against Nessa. Really not the gym leader I'd like a rematch against, if I'm being honest. Fortunately, her first few Pokemon are quick work for Spirit with a few wild charges, though once Pelipper takes the stage, I need to be a bit careful since he sets up the Rain and is Nessa's final Pokemon before her Gigantamax Dreadnought comes in. So the idea is to try and stall out Rain and possibly even set up a Sunny Day before taking the KO. Unfortunately, our Protect gets punished hard as Pelipper goes for a Tailwind, meaning that I need to do a fair deal of switching to get the right setup. The result is that Maximus takes a massive amount of damage from a rain-boosted Water Pulse that also manages to confuse, so I gotta do some more pivoting. Eventually, I get Maximus into a position where he can safely take the KO with his own Wild Charge, but sadly, even with Leftover's recovery, he's got very little HP left to deal with Dreadnought. It is still enough to protect for one turn, but after tanking a Max Darkness, I've gotta either sacrifice Maximus or switch to another one of my horses and just hope for the best. In hindsight, it was probably better to guarantee the safe switch, but I just couldn't do it. I couldn't knowingly send one of my horses to die when there might have been another option. So instead, I switch to Shadowfax and get extremely lucky as she comes in on a resisted Max Rockfall. On the next turn, my Dark Horse uses a held Pasho Berry to tank Dreadnaught's massive G-Max Stone Surge before retaliating with a monstrous Earthquake for well over 50%. Even as Dreadnought returns to her regular form, I've got just one chance left at a deathless victory, and that's by switching to Boxer. A defense drop from Razor Shell or a critical hit, and we're in a lot of trouble. But our Coppertone Beauty successfully dodges the bad RNG, and with a Citrus Berry, he's free to eat one last liquidation before taking the KO with a superpower and winning us round 1. Next is B, another less than optimal matchup, but certainly one that's better than what we just experienced. This is another showcase for Warhorse, the horse from Warhorse, though unfortunately he's no longer able to get quite as many clean kills against B's fighting types. The result is that by the time we've taken out her penultimate Pokemon, Warhorse, the horse from Warhorse, is already below 50%. As Machamp Gigantamaxes, we proceed with some careful switches. First to Spirit on a Max Flare, then back to Warhorse, the horse from Warhorse, on a G-Max Chi Strike, and finally to Seabiscuit on a second Max Flare. With the sun set up, I decide to nuke the regular size Machamp with an Overheat, though it does come just shy of the KO, giving Machamp the opportunity to miss a cross chop. The 50% chance at a critical hit there, and we're probably dead, but Seabiscuit lives to see another day and take the final KO of the fight. Something tells me we're not gonna keep getting away with close calls like that, though with just a few battles left in the playthrough, there aren't many more opportunities for things to go awry. Raihan is theoretically our final opponent before we've earned the chance to face off against Leon, and thankfully he's much less difficult this time around as a result of his obsession with setting up conflicting types of weather. Take for example his lead Torkoal, who sets up the sun, meaning that his Goodra will need to set up a rain dance if she wants to hit Shadowfax with a super effective Muddy Water after we get an easy KO with Earthquake. Well, that was almost really bad. I mean, even though we survived, it's still not great to have taken that much damage since Shadowfax is our main answer into Duraludon, but fortunately Raihan heals with a full restore, so we can get a solid chunk of HP back via leftovers before ultimately taking the KO. Anyways, that now brings in Goodra like I mentioned, who gives me a free switch to Warhorse, the horse from Warhorse, as he sets up Rain Dance. I don't think that sounds as cool as you think it does, Raihan. Holding a wide lens, Warhorse, the horse from Warhorse, clutches up and takes the clean KO on Goodra with a 99% accurate play rough, bringing Turtonator in third. His defense is so high that I reckon Dazzling Gleam is better than play rough here. Whether it is or not, it isn't a two-shot, so after Sunny Day goes up, I switch to Seabiscuit on a failed Shell Trap. We then hit the Koopa with a quad-resisted Overheat, which does just enough damage such that I can bring Warhorse, the horse from Warhorse, back in on a Dragon Pulse and take the KO with a second Dazzling Gleam. Flygon is fourth, and this time we manage to outspeed, so with another 99% accurate play rough, we get the KO and bring Raihan down to that pesky Gigantamax Duraludon. A switch to Seabiscuit lets us tank a still nasty Max Steel Spike, and then it's off to Boxer on a Max Rockfall. With a Choppleberry, Boxer's safe to stay in and eat a super effective Max Knuckle before hitting a superpower for nearly 50%. With that, Duraludon's Gigantamax is over. I can switch Maximus in on another Body Press, which is again halved by a Choppleberry. And then Maximus can outspeed and get the clean KO with a close combat. Mere steps away from victory, sweet Maximus falls, marking just the second death of the run. But the number of deaths doesn't matter. Each one hurts just the same, and though Shadowfax can win us the battle, it hardly feels like a victory. Chairman Rose interrupts the Champion Cup to bring about Galar's darkest day, but my darkest day is already here. My loyal, hard-working friend is gone, and there's nothing I can do about it. We do have to move on, though. There's no use beating a dead horse. We have to save Galar and defeat Leon. We're so close, but in order to do it, we will need one more horse. So, for the final time, it's back to the Isle of Armor, where I catch...
Oh, you have got to be kidding me! How is Horsey a horse? That doesn't satisfy any of the horse guidelines.
Horse guidelines? What are you talking about? You sound insane.
What? But, you know what? Fine. Gaslight me all you want, but don't come crying to me when your video gets downvoted because you didn't adhere to your own made-up rule set. Wah! Poor Flygon HG with his 10 out of 10 video. Boo freaking who?
Anyways, Seabiscuit torches all of Rose's steel types, and as usual against Eternatus, I do nothing besides cheekily taking the final KO after they've been whittled down by Zacian and Zamazenta. So it's not too long until I find myself back in Winden Stadium, at long last facing off against the soon-to-be former champion of Galar. Leon's team is stacked, but we've got the perfect plan to deal with each and every one of them. All we gotta do is execute. Against Aegislash, who starts with a King Shield, I have Shadowfax set up Stealth Rock. On the next turn, Leon opts for a second King Shield, which fails, so our Earthquake just gets the KO for free. That wasn't fully according to plan, but I'll take it. Inteleon gets baited in second, so it's off to Mystery, who's holding an Eviolite so that she hopefully survives a snipe shot. We'll never know though, since Leon opts for a Tearful Look. Is this guy really the champion of Galar? Well, regardless, I then switch to Spirit, whose Assault Vest lets him shrug off a Dark Pulse. Leon then decides to go back to Tearful Look, but even with the attack drop, a Wild Charge gets the KO after Stealth Rock and Sandstorm Chip. So third is Haxorus, but since she just wants to go for Outrage, it's a free switch to Warhorse, the horse from Warhorse, who then outspeeds and KOs with another Play Rough. All of a sudden, Leon is down to his last 3 Pokemon. Dragapult comes out looking to hit a Shadow Ball, which grants me a safe switch back into Spirit. A Dragon Breath then does just a bit of damage, though it also causes a Paralysis, which could very well be our Steed's doom. Fortunately, it isn't, since Spirit successfully connects with a Throat Chop that manages to crit kill Dragapult and bring Leon down to his penultimate Pokemon, Mr. Rhyme. He takes 25% from Stealth Rock, so it's a pretty safe switch to Seabiscuit, though he does take a nasty Psychic, but is then free to get the KO with a Charcoal-boosted Flamethrower. That may very well be the misplay of the century. Seabiscuit knew Flare Blitz, which obviously would have gotten the kill, but I didn't want to take the recoil damage if it could be avoided. Losing one of my starters is tragic enough on its own, but Leon still has a Gigantamax Charizard, and now I no longer have an immunity to his G-Max Wildfire. Though I may wish to mourn Seabiscuit's death, I must instead focus on getting out of this fight alive. I make another misplay by trying to snipe Mr. Rhyme off with a perfectly accurate Psycho Cut, only for Leon to heal with a full restore, forcing me to roll the dice with a few play roughs that thankfully connect. So it is by far the least disastrous of the 2 misplays, since Warhorse, the horse from Warhorse, remains in the green as Leon brings in the terrifyingly mighty Charizard. And with an immediate Gigantamax, it's time to make some tough calls, starting first with a switch to Mystery, who despite resisting the hit, immediately folds to a single G-Max Wildfire. This does give me the safe switch to Shadowfax though, who baits a Max Overgrowth, which does just a sliver of damage through Protect. It also sets up Grassy Terrain to give my teammates a bit more HP, though that is of course more than counteracted by the previously set up Wildfire. Still, since we bait a second Overgrowth, I can now switch to Boxer, who takes a solid chunk of damage. With that though, Charizard's Gigantamax is over. I can Protect to stall for some more Sandstorm Chip, but the fact of the matter is that Boxer is dead if Charizard connects with Fire Blast. Sadly, I've got absolutely no other answer. So with hope filling my heart, I have Boxer prepare for a heavy slam, but Fire Blast does indeed connect. And so, Boxer joins Mystery, Seabiscuit, Maximus, and Sweet Flicka in the great beyond. I bring in Warhorse, the horse from Warhorse, expecting to revenge kill Charizard with a Psycho Cut, but my heart shatters as it's revealed that Leon's ace outspeeds. And by connecting with another Fire Blast, he too kills Warhorse, the horse from Warhorse. As the sand and the grass fade, I'm down to just 2 Pokemon. I bring in Shadowfax, who sets up another Sandstorm. But then, Charizard connects with yet another Fire Blast, which again gets an unexpected KO. I'm playing terribly. I've been completely thrown off ever since missing that KO on Mr. Rhyme, and the result is unnecessary death after unnecessary death. I should have known that Charizard would be faster than Warhorse, the horse from Warhorse, because Leon didn't go for a max airstream. And though it might not be obvious that Shadowfax couldn't tank a neutral Fire Blast from nearly full HP, I didn't have to risk it because a Protect would have used up Charizard's 5th and final Fire Blast PP. Now I'm left with one single horse, Spirit. He's paralyzed, and though Charizard cannot go for Fire Blast, he can still go for Air Slash, which has a chance to flinch. A single missed play against Mr. Rhyme of all Pokemon has cascaded into a comedy of errors that now leaves the fate of the entire run up to whether Spirit gets paraflinched. It all comes down to this. Charizard opts for Ancient Power, and for a moment I fear that we're about to be wiped out by an Omni Boost. But then, Spirit connects with a Throat Chop. After all the chip from Stealth Rock and Sandstorm, it's more than enough for the KO, finally defeating the murderous Charizard and at long last narrowly winning us not just the battle against Leon, but the entire run. So that was much closer than it needed to be. I just want to say that for the record, I've never thrown for content. I mean, like, sure, sometimes I take risks to save a Pokemon when the safer play was to just sacrifice them, and sometimes I do go for high risk, high reward plays when there's actually a safer, more boring play. But trust me, that final fight was completely on accident. When I do something stupid on purpose, you'll definitely know. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, it'd be great if you could leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Or don't, I don't know. But I do know that you should follow me on Twitch to keep up with streams of my current ROM hack challenges. Stay tuned for more Nuzlocke videos, and until then, remember to always, always, always play around the critical hit.